We have Mark Epperson from Alliant Insurance Brokers on the show this week, and he's discussing how they are using technology to help their trucking clients lower and better control their insurance rates. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast.
Mark, welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance Podcast. Can you introduce yourself for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Epperson, I co-lead Alliant Specialties transportation vertical. Alliant is a broker based in the U.S., built around specialty, and transportation is our most recent vertical. So myself and colleagues Mark Naves and Patrick O'Driscoll recently joined to help build out our transportation capabilities for the firm.
Cool.
Hey, when you say vertical to trucking people, what the heck is a vertical?
Just think of it as an industry practice, but we got to name it a little bit different to make it.
Right. So I just wanted everybody to understand. Basically, they're an insurance broker or an insurance agent, and they write trucks.
Yep. I was going to say it's better than being horizontal because that just sounds like you're laying down on the job.
So that's a little more challenging to describe, and
And I found this interesting. You're in the majority of states, and your brokerage also has a presence in Canada.
we don't want our neighbors to the north to feel left out, and especially in transportation, right? A lot of overlap between Canadian and U.S. companies.
Sure.
We
Big
focus
time.
a lot of acquisition activity from Canadian companies in the U.S. So there's a presence that we needed to be able to properly serve our clients.
Yeah, there is
Good
a lot
deal.
of mergers and acquisitions going on and bankruptcies. That's
Oh
what-
gosh, yes.
An unfortunate reality in the market that we're in right now.
hmm
Hey, what would make it unique? Why would I look out or reach out to Mark? Um, there's lots of established brokers in this market already. What makes it unique that I would get from Mark and the company?
A great question, right? We're kind of the new kids on the block, I should say. Now all of us have experience at either other brokers or transportation companies in our past. But for Alliant, a lot of our value proposition is based around telematics and using data to help our clients understand their behaviors, understand understand kind of their risk exposures, and ultimately drive better outcomes.
hmm
By better outcomes, what do you mean? You're talking about
Meaning or economic from an insurance perspective. And so, that's going to be reducing losses, reducing retained losses. We do have some facilities, or we have in particular an excess facility that tied to telematics. So our customers can save money based on their driving behavior.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
in a layer or in a product with excess liability that's quite expensive and challenging to find. So trying to help our clients and insurance carrier partners align interests, and hopefully everybody can make money.
Well, and one of the bonuses, is when you're working on this level that you're talking about, the focus is to reduce losses. But if I'm that guy that goes, well, I don't have very many losses to begin with, well, then now I can help affect the bottom line with this process.
For sure. Absolutely. And even if you don't have losses, right? If you think about the historical way that this industry has looked at drivers, it's been
Mhm.
let's look at incidents over a long period of time to try to predict the future. And so that was an MVR, that was an inspection report, that was
Right.
maybe a loss. Now we don't really have to do that, right? There's an ELD on every one of those units. There's plenty of technology coming off the new trucks, and you can see every second of driver behavior and understand, who's driving well, and who's getting beat, right? And so it's not a matter of because you've had some individuals or drivers that have been getting lucky, or maybe you validate that, hey, you've got a driver driver population that's better than everybody else. And you could take that data now and, and share that externally and prove that you're a better risk. You're not just getting.
Right. Well, and the ability to move forward here and work in real time rather than historical time.
Absolutely.
And
We had I tell people I had a story, I had an insurance carrier that came to us. And this was in a prior life, and the underwriter said, "Hey, I want to write all the nuns and none of the convicts." And we told them, we are like, "Well, how about we tell you which nuns are speeding and which convicts are a little bit better behind the wheel, and so we don't have to look in kind of broad terms. You can pinpoint it down to the driver level and understand performance that is likely to drive both risk and operational outcome."
Yep.
yeah, it's amazing the information that's coming from telematics now
Yeah.
and from the truck manufacturers as well.
Absolutely.
And so is this similar to a driver scorecard and you sharing the driver scorecard with the insurer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're aggregating telematics data at the fleet level, and then we break it down by individual unit. We're showing a score, and we show insurance carriers, kind of where that score sits on the spectrum, right? It's a red, green, or yellow, right? And we provide that back to our client as well and show them. For us, we're trying to get them to focus on top 10% and incentivize those, and look at the bottom 10% and say, how can you help them change behaviors? And based on the data that we're seeing, here are some suggestions on what you should focus on.
Like, slow the hell down, god damn it.
Pretty quick way to go, or it's usually the first place to look.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, when I look at telematics, that is frequently the thing, the most frequent violation, because they all seem to know what the speed limits are in all the neighborhoods, including the non-high, what we would call interstates. So on the city streets, they know that you're speeding as well. Like drivers, and I guess, Mark, I was going to make a statement, but I'll ask a question instead. Do drivers understand that they're being monitored nowadays?
I think they have to. Right? I mean, and whether it's you're being monitored by your company you're employed from, or they all should at least know they're being monitored by the FMCSA, right? But the electronic device mandate kind of made sure that was the case. Not every driver gets it. I will say it does seem to have an impact on clients and companies we're working with that have implemented inward facing cameras. That sometimes that's kind of the light switch for a lot of drivers to realize that, hey, somebody's watching. And it's somebody's watching because they're trying to help, right? It's not when done correctly, when implemented correctly, drivers can understand that those devices are there to help them more than hurt them, right? It really is. It's for protection of the driver, protection of the trucking company or transportation firm, and ultimately protection of the public.
Well, and sadly enough, we have a real reputation problem in the industry because of, everybody thinks, oh, truck drivers, they're terrible. Oh, they go too fast and whatnot. But there are a lot of good truck drivers out there, drivers that pay attention to their behaviors in this technology and use it to become better drivers. And companies that are, I guess I want to say, embracing this process are also helping to improve their reputation within the industry. So, but unfortunately, we've still got some bad apples out there. And, I think that's where, in the process of what you guys are doing by bringing in that program to help those companies to be better companies, is going to make the industry better as well.
Well, it's the industry is better. And I think this is it's unique for insurance, right? Because some of the things that we're doing here, I mean, actually it has an effect on the overall public, right? If we can make highways safer, that means somebody else that's going to go home that night that maybe wouldn't have.
Right.
That's a driver going home that wouldn't have, or somebody, somebody's mother or father or son or daughter. And so, yes, I think there is a bit of a bad reputation.
Mhm.
But it's more because, you don't, the things that make news are, when there is a fatality or something bad that happens. It's
Yeah.
it's the one, right? It's not the million
Right.
incidents where that truck driver did the right thing.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
it's, man, it's a challenging job, and people don't give truck drivers enough credit. Um,
No.
and hopefully, I think the industry probably has to do a little bit better job of, of talking about the things they're doing from a safety perspective. Because it really is like, it really does have a big impact.
Yeah.
And the industry really is, it is pretty progressive when it comes to safety, right? It's
Mhm.
been kind of it's been one area of focus. You can see a trucking company, will go to their biggest competitor and share information on safety, right? And
Yeah.
that really doesn't happen in a lot of other industries. The trucking's unique in that. I think there probably could be some better communication to the public at large about all the things that go into to the safety and the.
Well, I spent 20 years behind the wheel in the early part of my career. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of driver support back then. They're really lacking in people skills between management and drivers. It was basically just get the job done, go, go, go. We're seeing more of those people skills coming into play, building those relationships, but we're still not there. You're correct. The industry needs to step up some more and really embrace this program to help improve our drivers, our managers, our everybody that's in this organization. It's a great organization. We just need to do a little better at it.
For sure. Well, and I think that I would have to think, when you think of trucking, it's an older industry, right? And it's
Yes.
one that the equipment that's used is changing quickly.
Mhm.
It's changing faster than certainly the insurance
Yeah.
industry is giving it credit for. And I think it's one that, to be able to attract newer and younger drivers
Yep.
into the industry, I think, they're going to be more accustomed. They're going to be more accustomed to being monitored, right? They're being monitored on their phone, and they on their phones every single day, and they have been their whole life, right? So
Yep.
how do we kind of make that? I think the industry needs to make itself a little bit more attractive
Mhm.
um, to that next generation that's coming in, and the use of technology, um, and really the use of technology to make everybody else better is a good way to help recruit kind of new and different people to the industry that maybe wouldn't look at it otherwise.
Right. Correct.
Well, and I really think from a technology point of view, trucking is changing huge
Mhm.
because they are adapting it. What are you seeing out there from a technology point of view? Are trucking companies adapting the new technology as it comes into play?
We are seeing it quite a bit, and break that down in a couple ways. I think from an ELD and a camera perspective, they're becoming almost pervasive at this point. ELDs are obviously there, but really the use of that data. I think a lot of trucking companies are getting better on using the available platforms that are there, and using the data to help evaluate their drivers, right? So there's a lot of good ELD providers out there now that are making telematics data consumable, where that wasn't the case 3 and 4 years ago. And
Right.
so we're seeing that quite a bit. The thing that's changing now, it seems even faster, is the technology that's on vehicle.
Mhm.
So the ADAS technology, like it's an interesting concept right now. If you think about the typical, kind of turnover cycle for a trucking company, if they're turning over vehicles, 4, 5, 6 years. Back in the early 2000s, that vehicle was a little bit different. It was just nicer, but it was kind of the same technology. Now, now it had, 2019, 2020 vehicle, and they're adopting some of the updated technology. That's a totally different vehicle from a safety and risk perspective.
Yep.
And that's one of the challenges certainly that we're seeing in the insurance market is, yeah, again, the insurance is underwritten on past performance predicting, or past performance predicting future performance. If you're looking at an older fleet that has just turned over, that fleet's significantly different from a safety
Yeah.
perspective. The profile of that fleet is significantly different if they're updating if they're buying the available technology.
Yeah. Well, and even if you have a company that changes management or ownership, that thought process is going to have an effect, positive or negative, in that operation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's always management who drives the different things,
Mhm.
um, it's, and they set the expectations. But
Mhm.
one of the things that, again, I'm going to ask a question. I used to see it when I was working for the insurance company going out. Trucking companies used to do a poor job of sales, of promoting themselves when they're sitting in front of that safety person who's going to write a report that's going to have a dramatic effect on your insurance rates.
Mhm.
Has that changed out there?
We have seen trucking companies get better at it, right? Where they're producing presentations coming into renewal, um, and showing specific data. A lot of it used to be around, here's the process, and here's the resume of our safety team. Now, hey, let's pull a scorecard off of your Motive dashboard or your Samsara dashboard. Let's show clips specifically and how we're using it. So I think, if a if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video in one of those is worth 10,000. Right? And so now, I think being able to present their kind of safety strategy, their safety investment, is now becoming easier. That data is at their fingerprints, or at their fingertips. It's not the process that they could show the outcome of it in the data from either their telematics or their camera platform.
Sorry, can you repeat that last
Right.
bit? You broke up.
Oh, sorry about that. I was saying, rather than trying to show safety manuals or binders of information on what they do on a day-to-day basis, having the data available now in their ELD platform or their camera platform, they could show the outcome of it, right? And so it's a data-driven, it's a data-driven presentation that does, we're doing X and the outcome is Y. And
Mhm.
so something that should be consumable by insurance underwriters.
Now, I hope all the safety people heard that
Yes.
say it again, that they're doing data driven presentations.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So showing specific outcome from their telematics dashboard, showing specific clips and remediation training that they're doing from their inward facing camera. So um, rather than tell somebody what you're doing from a safety perspective, it's a lot easier and a lot more impactful to show them.
Yeah. Yeah. Provide those results. Nothing worse than, yeah, my SMS score is 2 years. Changed any. So now it causes a problem because I haven't used the data to tell you that I've gotten better.
Absolutely. And so when you can go in and, I think historically too, you probably wouldn't want to highlight if you have good or bad drivers, or maybe specifically on the bad side. But hey, now if you can say, I know who my 10 worst drivers are, and I have a plan around it,
Yep.
that could be
Yep.
that impact.
Yes.
Right. And just because they're the 10 worst drivers of your fleet, they may be good drivers that you're working on
Hmm.
improving and bringing them up to a higher level.
Hmm.
I think the other thing you can do with those drivers too, in today's world, you think about historically with fleet. We talked about what the difference in units or vehicles now with the updated technology and what that looked like versus 5 or 6 years ago. Right? If you think about like the historically, if a fleet turns over a vehicle, who's going to get the newer vehicle?
Hmm.
Probably going to be their better driver. It's going to be one that's
Sure.
experienced, the tenured. The, that's sitting out there, you probably have to look at that differently if you're a trucking company to say, hey, the 10 worst drivers that we just talked about, we just put them in a brand new vehicle that has, adaptive cruise control, has front end collision mitigation, has lane keep this. So you probably don't want to, you want the drivers that need the most help to have the newer vehicles now. And
Correct.
that's not always
Correct.
been, so how do you kind of bubble wrap those drivers as much as you possibly can?
Yep.
And that's something that can be illustrated now to the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you heard it here first from Mark of Alliant that you want your worst drivers to get the best trucks.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Give them the technology.
It does. It does make sense because of all the technology that's coming on. And I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was making light of it, but it's absolutely true that,
Yep.
your best drivers don't need all of the technology, but your other drivers can benefit from that technology until they too become one of the best.
Yep.
So, Mark, give us a hook. Why would, just going back, because we're running out of time quite quickly, this has been fun. I love talking about technology.
Mm-hmm.
Why would somebody want to reach out to you? What makes you different than all of the, than your competitors?
I think for us, we're going to give them insurance products that align the interests of their trucking company and the insurance company, right? So they're going to have the opportunity when they operate safer, they're going to see premium dividends coming back to their bottom line, and we're going to help them facilitate that process. So we're going to show them every month how they're performing. We're going to show them who their best drivers are and who their worst drivers are. About the plan to improve that performance over time, and we think, based on our experience, we think that will drive better outcomes than what is probably their fourth or fifth biggest expense. And so every good savings that they have in that line item goes directly to the bottom line. And I think we all know that trucking is not a high margin business, right? And so for every loss that you eliminate, that you cause to not happen, think about how many thousands of miles you now don't have to operate to make up that revenue.
Right.
Yeah, it's huge. When you don't have crashes, you make more money. That's the bottom line. What do you
Very true.
see, just as a general question, in the next 12 months? How do you see the insurance market? Is it hardening, softening, staying the same? What's your prognostication? How's that for a word? I'm glad you laughed because I've never used that word before. I don't think.
You heard it here. The dog has used the prognosis.
That is way more syllables than I expected on a truck.
I think he was practicing it 3 times every minute before the show there, Mark.
What's your guess for the future?
Right. I will say right now, I've been doing this for 20 years, and this is the worst market I've seen. Keep thinking it's going to get better, but the information or the data is not supporting that right now. The insurance industry has lost money 11 of the last 12 years in commercial auto. The one year they made money was 2021, and they just barely lost money in 2020. So it only took a global pandemic to make money in this space. And so it's not, trends are not heading in the right direction. It looks like 2023 is going to be about 107% combined ratio. Insurance companies are losing, 7 cents on every dollar. And if you break that down specifically to trucking, it aligns it aligns well with it. About 107 in trucking as well. I think 8 of the top 10 trucking insurance companies saw an increase in loss ratio in 2023. Overall, about at 6%. So, I think everything kind of well documented on what causes that, right? Nuclear verdicts, social inflation, significant inflation, cost, there doesn't seem to be anything that indicates that those trends are going to be getting better in the next 12 months. So I think it's going to continue to be challenging. If we're sitting here on June 24th of next year, I hope I had better news, but right now the data's not indicating that will be the case.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a funny industry because, as you said, it's such a large cost to the trucking company and to us as a consumer. Everybody who buys anything, it's not pretty at the moment, that's for sure. Mark Epperson from Alliant, thank you so much. And again, you operate in several, I'd say several, the majority of the states in the United States, and you've got 2 locations in Canada. So you are available to the people right across North America. Um, and a great deal of trucking, of course, crosses border. So they could use your services, I'm sure, with your expertise. Last word, Mark.
Come check out our website, Alliant.com. If there's any questions, then reach out to us. We're here to help. And John, Chris, appreciate you having me on. It was a pleasure.
Well,
Cool.
thank you. And Mark,
Glad you joined us.
the website's down below in the show notes. Your contact info is, of course, in the show notes. Thanks, Mark. What a great episode. A lot of information. And thank you for watching and listening. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, leave us a comment. Who would you like to hear on the show next week? All right. That's it for this week. John and I are out of here.